This video discusses Christianity and the Bible. However, we are by no means peddling religion. Our intent is to expose the hypocrisy and deception that has been demonstrated by Barrie Mayor Nuttall, who claims to be a devout Christian, but who pushed Premier Doug Ford to abuse the true purpose of the notwithstanding clause of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms so he could clear out the only shelter available to Ontario's poorest and most vulnerable human beings. That is hardly an empathetic or compassionate act reflective of Christian values. So the question is, if Nuttall is deceptive about who he is, what else is he lying about? Nuttall's stated goal, as a supposed believer in the teachings of Christ, is to strip the rights of unsheltered Canadians so he can deny them the safety of life, liberty, and security of the person, which are guaranteed under Section 7 of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and which were validated through a January 27, 2023 ruling by Justice Michael J. Valente of the Superior Court of Justice. This video should be of interest to everybody, as nobody knows what rights the Ontario PC Party will take from us next.
It's that most wonderful time of the year once again, and our Mayor, Nuttall, and the representatives of Barrie City Council are pulling out all the stops to ensure the holidays of our poorest and most vulnerable are filled with pain, suffering, and potentially death. The average temperature in Barrie during the festivities is around -8. That is cold enough to cause, in a very short time, both agonizing frostbite and potentially lethal hypothermia. Regardless, Mayor Nuttall and his council of sycophants continue to refuse to open a 24/7 warming center. While we are with family and friends, enjoying turkey and treats, those who are suffering homelessness will have no place to get warm. For more than 24-hour stores and restaurants will be closed, the library's doors will be locked, and if Nuttall gets his way, these fellow human beings will not even be able to hide from the wind behind a thin sheet of plastic. Whatever happened to peace on earth and goodwill to all? Nuttall professes to be a devout Christian, yet his actions are antithetical to the teachings of his supposed faith. Cruelty runs deep in our City Hall, where the mayor and council pretend to be compassionate leaders of our community. However, in truth, they are showing themselves to be vicious and callous abusers of the weakest and most vulnerable members of our population. The inhumanity being displayed by our mayor and council is also fraudulently costing the taxpayers of Barrie and other cities and towns in Ontario. It is a statistically supported fact that a person who is forced to live on the streets costs taxpayers far more in publicly paid services than it would cost to house them. So, what is the motivation of our politicians to maintain the impoverished status of this growing sector of our population? The obvious answer is grift, and a desire to personally profit from the pain and suffering of others. Again, this would be antithetical to the teachings of Christianity, but clearly none of these supposedly righteous people truly care much about that small detail when financial gain through hypocrisy truly controls their decision-making. It is obvious once you get past the sleight of hand that we are all being deceived, and the contrived drama of our elected officials is costing all of us more in taxes every day. That is why Doug Ford and a small number of mostly conservative mayors want to be able to blame and attack the victims of their own ineptitude. The socially deceptive response to the homeless crisis is a game of three-card Monte concocted by politicians who are putting on a show so they can skim potentially millions of dollars from the taxpayers. They can only do that if they can generate a sense of fear and loathing within our population. The golden rule of the Christian faith, by which Nuttall touts he lives and adheres, states, "In everything, do to others what you would have them do to you, for this sums up the law and the prophets." However, in truth, our mayor follows the ideology of another Christmas story, that being a Christmas carol, in which Ebenezer Scrooge selfishly rants,
"If they would rather die, they'd better do it and decrease the surplus population."
The hypocrisy is self-evident, as at the true level of Nuttall's professed faith in a religion he does not truthfully adhere to or follow. The modern expression "talk the talk or walk the walk" has its roots in Christian scripture. The original language of John 3 verse 18 reads, "Dear children, let us not love with words or tongue but with actions and in truth." Few true Christians would believe that Christ, be he real or mythical, would ever allow the poor to starve and freeze to death in a doorway or alley. However, that is what Nuttall is forcing to happen while at the same time professing to follow the lessons of Scripture. His actions are not only hypocritical, but truly deceptive, as they directly contradict the lessons of the Messiah he claims to follow. Is the spiritual leader of Christianity wrong? Or is Alex Nuttall nothing more than a narcissistic abuser of the faith of others, seeking power by pretending to be a man of God, when his actions directly contradict the character of the false facade that he is trying to create through lies and attacks on our most vulnerable? The very idea of Nuttall's repeated vicious attacks on the poor is antithetical to the story in Matthew 14, where it is claimed Jesus fed 5,000 poor and hungry people. In that story, the claimed Son of God is said to have welcomed the poor and sick to feast on the loaves and fishes. Nuttall's actions, since becoming mayor of Barrie, are antithetical to his professed faith. While he feels the need to be pious and holier than thou, at the same time, he shows utter contempt for the teachings of the God he professes to worship. To those who truly follow the teachings of the Christian faith, Christmas Day is a celebration of a baby who was born in a barn because the family had nowhere else to go. The irony is screaming at Alex Nuttall's utter hypocrisy and his willingness to cause pain, suffering, and potentially death to his fellow men and women who are in the exact same situation as the family he is celebrating. This Christmas season, while our hypocritical mayor and councilors celebrate their good fortune with family and friends, teams of volunteers, ranging in faith from atheists to an ordained minister, will be on the streets of Barrie providing food, warm clothing, and necessary items of survival to those who are mostly the victims of fraud, illegal eviction, workplace injury, and chronic diseases like cancer. Our pontificating false Christian mayor will not be with us, which is also true of the talk is cheap counselors. That is the difference between talking and walking, and every day more people are seeing why in 2026, we need to fire each and every one of these compassionless hypocrites from their cushy jobs and walk their heartless hides out of the People's City Hall.